Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 12 of Mel Goes Wild.
Mel Goes Wild is a proud ambassador for great outdoors.
In today's episode, I'm going to be talking all about camping stoves. If, like me, when you went out or did any research on buying your first camping stove, I got so overwhelmed and just a bit confused because some of them seem very similar to one another and then others seem so difficult to set up, like your alcohol stoves, your liquid stoves, your canister stoves. So in this episode, I'm going to talk you through all of the different ones, the pros and cons of each, so that you know what type of camping stove is going to be best suited to your type of camping needs. Before we get started, ask yourself these questions because it's going to make your buying experience of a camping stove way easier.
A few factors to consider when buying your camping stove. Your stove's weight. This will be important if you're planning a long distance through hike, as you'll most likely want it to be lightweight. If you're using your stove for car camping, then weight probably won't be a priority. Burn time. When looking at your choices, you can compare how long a stove burns using a given amount of fuel. Your average boil time. After a long day's hiking, I like to have a stove that can boil my water quickly for my dinner in the evening, and the same goes for the next morning with my coffee. I want that coffee quick. If I'm car camping, then boil time isn't a big priority. I don't mind waiting an extra few minutes for my water to boil. So boil times vary hugely from 1 minute to 10 minutes, depending on the stove. Stove types are loosely categorized by what type of fuel they use and how that fuel is stored. You have your canister, your liquid fuel, and alternative stoves. Canister stoves. These boil water quickly and some models can achieve simmering. These stoves usually screw onto the top of your pre-pressurized isobutane and propane fuel canister. I find these are the best for convenience as there's no fuss and the easiest to use, especially if you're new to the world of stoves. Liquid fuel stoves. These boil water very quickly, even in cold weather. They usually run on liquid white gas and are connected to refillable fuel bottles. Alternative fuel stoves. These include stoves that run on fuel pellets, alcohol, or wood. They can be inexpensive to buy but are slower to boil, sometimes by minutes, and require a little bit more effort and time to get set up and cooking. First up, canister stoves. My very first camping stove was the MSR wind burner system a few years back, and most recently the MSR Pocket Rocket pictured here. I am a big fan of canister camping stoves for their simplicity, ease of use, and how quick they are at boiling water. Some pros: they are easy to use and light, compact in size depending on the stove. Some cons: the arms are not long enough to hold large pots securely. Sometimes they're not compatible with other types of fuel, and they are temperature sensitive, meaning some canister stoves don't work well in extreme cold conditions. So just to make things a little bit more confusing, there are also additional types of canister stoves in this category. Integrated canister systems boil water fastest while also using minimal fuel, but they are ideally used for boiling water very, very quickly. These are usually tall in size and feature a burner that screws onto the fuel canister, which then pairs with a twist-on insulated pot. This is a great cooking system for one person who is looking for something compact, easy to use, and boils water faster. Something to note: the pot that comes with this system is not for cooking or simmering foods in. Its actual main purpose is to boil water. You can purchase specific pots like this one pictured here, and they are paired with this system for cooking food. However, using any other pot on top of this stove will suffocate the flame. Then you have your remote canister stoves. This type of stove sits on its own base and has a fuel hose that connects it to the canister. These typically pack down small and are lightweight. These stoves may have wider support arms for large pot stability. Your liquid fuel stoves. All liquid fuel stoves run on white gas, so they are great if you plan on cooking for your entire group and are not too concerned about weight or space in your backpack. Some pros: they have better stability compared to canister stoves. The stable base means you can use a bigger pot on the stove for larger groups. The temperature performs better in colder conditions and at higher elevations. While you do have to buy a fuel bottle, there's no canister to discard, and it's easy to tell how much fuel you have by simply peering into the fuel bottle. Some cons: maintenance is required, such as cleaning the fuel hose. It's also a little more time consuming to set up and use, and they are heavier than canister stoves, and most do require priming. So what the hell is priming?
My name is Optimus Prime.
Well, it's absolutely nothing to do with Optimus Prime. It sounds a lot more complicated and terrifying than it actually is. It involves igniting a few drips of fuel in the cup below the burner, creating a small flame that preheats the fuel line. This then enables the stove to convert liquid fuel into vapor. You will need to pump your fuel bottle too to increase its pressure. Wood-burning stoves. These use materials from the environment for fuel. In Ireland, these types of stoves for backpacking aren't ideal due to our climate and fire safety regulations. It's also hard to find and gather dry kindling on the trail while also adhering to the leave no trace principles of collecting firewood and starting fires. My recommendation would be to use these types of stoves for car camping when you can bring along your own kindling for fuel. Some pros: they are simple, lightweight, no need to carry fuel. Some cons: they can't be used in areas that have a fire warning. Finding dry fuel during wet weather can be challenging in Ireland. Alcohol stoves. These are simple and reliable stoves, down to there being less moving parts. Alcohol stoves have been a long-standing favourite for most long-distance through hikers, as they weigh a few grams and you only need to carry a bottle of alcohol sized to meet your camping trip needs. Some pros: they are inexpensive, there's less moving parts, it burns silently, it's lightweight and it's cheap to buy. Some cons: alcohol does not burn as hot as canister fuel or white gas. Slower boiling times and a windscreen is usually needed. Solid fuel tablet stoves. These burn fuel tablets. The tablets are super small, lightweight, quiet, easy to use and easy to carry. I would suggest having these as part of your emergency kit in case your main stove fails. Some pros: they are cost effective, compact, easy to use, lightweight, and the tablets light easy and may be extinguished and reused later. Some cons: slower cooking times, not great in wind and rain. The tablets usually have a really bad odour and they may leave a residue on your cookware. Some features to consider. The piezo igniter. This is a push-button spark producer found on some canister fuel stoves. It's a handy feature, especially if your matches are lost or wet. Stabilizers can be attached to the bottom of fuel canisters to provide a stable base on uneven ground and reduce the chance of upright models tipping over. Your windscreen protects stoves and increases the efficiency of your camping stove in windy conditions.
My top tip for this week, and it seems like a really simple one, but I made the mistake of doing it. Make sure to check that you have enough fuel before you set off on your trip. There is nothing worse than heading off on your trip only to find out that you don't have enough fuel or your canister is empty. Always have some sort of backup with you, spare fuel, and also if you do have a self-igniting stove, make sure that you have stormproof matches because sometimes they can fail, and if you're bringing a gas lighter, sometimes they break, the fuel leaks, so make sure to have a backup to light your camping stoves with.
Great Outdoors and I have each picked a star stove for our camping adventures. First up, Great Outdoors' star pick is the Jetboil Stash cooking system. As it's a stove system, it comes with a pot, fuel, lid, stove, and stabilizers. Next up is my pick, the Next Generation Pocket Rocket 2 stove. Barely noticeable in your pack, it's fast at camp, boiling 1 litre of water in 3.5 minutes. Unlike a stove system, however, this comes without a pot, fuel, lid, and stabilizers. However, they can be bought separately. I like it as it allows me the flexibility of bringing along a pot or a pan to suit my camping needs. Some usage tips for any backpacking stove. Do not cook inside tents or enclosed spaces. Check all fuel lines, valves and connections for leaks or damage before lighting your stove. If your stove does come with a piezo lighter, it's still a good idea to always carry stormproof matches in case the igniter fails.
As always, thank you so much for watching. All I ask for in return is if you learn something new and you feel like you can go out now into the world with confidence and buy your new camping stove, please just like this video, subscribe to the channel, and then drop some love in the comments below. Also, most of the camping stoves mentioned in this episode are actually available to buy on the Great Outdoors website at www.greatoutdoors.ie.
You can also find me and our Gals Gone Wild community on Instagram. You can contact me for partnerships, or if you have any questions, please do email me, and you can see more of what Gals Gone Wild is all about on our website, galsgonewild.com. And until next week, make sure to get outdoors and go wild.